All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today. We are going to cover harnessing AI for workplace efficiency. And so this is a guide for UIS employees to learn how to use these different AI tools to improve their efficiency at work and to help them just overall become a better employee, because with the generative AI capability, it allows us to do so much more than we're able to do without it. So this is to show you all exactly how to use it. So still had a couple people trickling in, so please forgive me. All right. So what is artificial intelligence? So it's the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages. What artificial intelligence is not. It's not the AI movie depictions of Terminator robots. They're not coming to take over the world or our jobs, but AI can create problems if we use it in the wrong way. Slides aren't advancing like they should. So what is generative AI? Generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence technology. So I know often you hear AI this, AI that over the past year, where most often they're referring to generative AI, which is this type of artificial intelligence. And it can produce various types of content, including text, imagery, audio, and synthetic data, often in response to text prompts. These models learn patterns and structure of their training data and generate new data based on those similar characteristics. Why these slides aren't advancing for me like they should. Let me try on this control. There we go. So the different generative AI models that we have are Microsoft Copilot. So recently ITS has let us know that we now have access to Microsoft Copilot with our license through Microsoft Office. So in this, we get data protection, which is great. So that means that we can put in private data and it won't get used to train future models. So this is very important. It does use ChatGPT-4, but it is limited to 30 messages per conversation with a 2,000 character limit. There's also a feature in Microsoft Copilot called Notebook, where you get 30 messages per conversations as well, but it gives you up to 18,000 characters. So it's a little bit more, but there are limitations to the model. OpenAI's ChatGPT, which most of us are very aware of because this is kind of what started the whirlwind of the Gen AI movement over the past year. And so we all have access to their free account, which is ChatGPT 3.5. This does not offer data protection, and it's limited to its knowledge base. So its knowledge base, I believe, goes up to September 2021, which in regards to specific fields, that may not be helpful. So for example, in our office, we do a lot of coding. And so a model being that far out of date isn't going to be very helpful for our team, because all of the information about different ways to code projects or even debug those coding projects, we kind of need up-to-date information. And so that's why it's really nice to have real-time access to data and not be limited like the free version ChatGPT 3.5 offers. And then we also have Google Gemini. This was previously called Bard, and it has access to real-time data, can scan websites, links, and offers image upload options as well. The free account offers all of this, but no data protection. But then there is a Gemini Advanced option that is available for business accounts that offer the data protection as well. So what are the capabilities of generative AI? And it gives us a lot of different options to make different types of content, to enhance our content, make it more accessible, help us render it in different formats, make it available to all users, regardless of physical capabilities. So we can do text to speech, speech to text, image to text, text to image, and language translation. Now that is dependent on the model. So not all the models have those same options or capabilities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of prompting all three of those models I just mentioned. So I have all three of them pulled up. And for sake of consistency, I have the 3.5 version here. This is the Copilot version, and you can see it is data protected, and you will know it's data protected because you'll see this little green button in the top right, and that means I'm logged in with my net ID and my account, and so it is data protected. So if you're using Copilot, make sure you log in and you see that before you're entering in any information, and that also gives you additional character counts where the free account doesn't as much. And so I'm going to go ahead and show an example of prompting the model. And what we're going to ask it is a basic, very simple question that I had just while making this PowerPoint presentation. So I wanted to know, how do I change the font for this PowerPoint presentation? So I'm going to go ahead and prompt each of these models to see what it responds. As text or an image for Gemini. Let me try something different. So you can see kind of the difference in time, how long the one takes over the other, and also the difference in the actual responses. So the ChatGPT 3.5, it gives basic information on how to do that. Go to the Home tab, find the locate the font section. And it's essentially telling you how to adjust the font for a specific section of the PowerPoint. And so on the Copilot, it's saying how we replace the font tools. And then it says how we can do it via the master slide. So we can affect the whole PowerPoint and not just a specific chunk of text, which is very helpful. One thing you will notice, there are ads. So Copilot does show ads. And so you need to make sure and take it with a grain of salt as far as the links that it provides, because some of them are ad-based in Copilot. So that's one thing that ChatGPT does not have. There is no ad integration. So that's something to think of, but it does provide some additional information that the 3.5 ChatGPT version did not, as far as affecting the whole PowerPoint presentation and not just editing that. And then over in Gemini, you can see it did the same thing, how to change the font for all the slides at once, or how to change the font just for the specific text box, which is very helpful. So you can see the differences, but also the similarities between the different models. And then it also provided a link for support with Gemini, where the ChatGPT 3.5 version did not. Additional resources that Copilot provided was videos on to show how to do it. So that's kind of helpful too, even though it does have some ads that it'll throw in there every once in a while. It does provide good links for resources. So that's very helpful. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing the slides. So you can look at AI as your personal creative assistant. So these generative AI models can help you brainstorm, generate new ideas, and it can also help you refine existing ideas and find different ways to approach a problem. So it can help you with writing assignments, concept development, inspiration, and advice, and feedback. Tutorial guidance. There's often times where I'm going through a tutorial and it just doesn't explain this one specific question I have, and it can answer typically those types of questions. So with AI, you can become a superhuman. So this is great, right? So we can vastly enhance our skills, efficiency, and decision-making using generative AI. So it is a super great tool to integrate into your toolbox for your everyday workflow. So remember, AI plus humans equals great collaboration. It's nothing to be scared of, and it's something that can definitely help you in your day-to-day job. So there are some things that we need to consider. ethical concerns and data privacy are very important things. So when we're using generative AI tools, we need to be wary of entering private data. So there are implications that, include data privacy laws and regulations, and FERPA does apply. So we do not want to put student information or data into a model that doesn't use data protection. And you also don't want to put in your personal projects or private information into a model that doesn't offer that as well. So it's very important to understand your model's capabilities and what data protection it offers. Just to be safe, Copilot is definitely the one we're recommending to use out of the box because it does come free with our license with that data protection. If you want to use one of the other models like ChatGPT or Gemini, you would have to pay for the advanced license or the Plus or Teams license for ChatGPT to be able to get that data protection. And then there's also bias that are in these models. So these models can perpetuate and amplify those biases because it's present in the training data. So you need to be conscious of this. So while you're, prompting the different models and getting information back, just know that there are biases that are in the training data, which may be reflected in the responses that it gives. And so no matter what tool you're using, make sure it's using data protection if you're entering personal or sensitive data. And then also make sure you're adhering to the acceptable use of information technology resources policy that we have through the ITS department. They've recently been working on updates to reflect the changes that we've all incurred because of AI. So definitely take a look at those so you know what the requirements are. And so data accuracy is another thing that is something to be conscious of. The accuracy of the information by these largely depend on the quality and the diversity of the data it was trained on. So if the data included misinformation, biases, or errors, these could be reflected in the outputs. So it's always important to cross-verify the information provided by the generative AI models with reliable sources, especially for critical or sensitive topics. So this is definitely important as you're, doing research or different things. And sometimes ChatGPT, for example, likes to just make up links. So it'll be like, hey, here's a resource, but then you go to click the link or the resource and it's broken. So oftentimes it'll just make stuff up and you have to make sure that you're checking that for data accuracy. There's also a thing called AI hallucinations. So they give you this misleading results, and the errors can be caused by the insufficient training data, incorrect assumptions made by the model, or biases in the data that's used to train it. So currently, if the AI models do not know the answer to your question, they will make up an answer. They are not trained to say, I do not know the answer to your question. So they will take essentially their capabilities, scan the data, and infer a response. And so that may not always be correct. So they call those AI hallucinations. So it's very important to make sure and check the data that it's providing to make sure that it's accurate. So here are some different links for guidance and using these different AI technologies. So Colors has made a wonderful page to describe all things generative AI, the differences in models, different tools that you can use for checking for, plagiarism, AI plagiarism, even though those aren't concrete as of yet. And also the Digital Risk Management Office from the system has created a generative AI page and section of their site where you can find additional information for those resources. And so remember, AI's interpretation is only good as the question. So you really have to get good at prompting as you start to work with these models. So the better the question, the better the response. So what are some different areas that we can use generative AI? So they include administrative tasks, writing assistance, document creation, summarize this email or these meeting notes, rewrite this email in a nicer, more professional tone. That's my favorite. Explain it at a 9th grade readability level. So all of the content on the website should technically be 9th grade readability level or lower, because that's our prospective student audience. That's what they recommend for content on the website. And then how do I X, Y, and Z? So I'm going to show you some of the some different prompts and examples. And for this, I'm specifically going to use Copilot, since that is our option that we have with our license. Let me go ahead and switch screens. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and start a new chat. It says new topic. They call it a new topic in Copilot. And then from there, I'm going to ask it some prompts based on those different potential areas for use I just showed. So for example, as a writing assistant, how can we use it as a writing assistant? So I've come up with some different prompts so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me type everything out. And I'm going to paste it in here. So for this one, I work for the University of Illinois Springfield in the Student Affairs Department. Write me a content calendar to use for social media to engage with students. So let's see what it comes up with. And so this is a great way to really help guide you for different initiatives that you have in your office. So depending upon what you're trying to achieve, you can literally use generative AI to help brainstorm ideas, to come up with different ways to engage with students, to help streamline events. It's really a great tool to just come up with different ideas and, you know, as a creative partner to bounce different concepts off of. And so you can see how it's really outlining important dates to remember, mark your calendar, different ways that we can really engage. And then at the end, this is where I'm talking about the ad. So it pops in an ad for Hootsuite at the end for us to say, hey, you can create a content calendar there as well. So I'm going to do it one better. And I don't think we need Hootsuite. So I'm going to ask a follow-up question. So you can see that was some great information that it gave, but I want some additional details. So I'm going to ask it, I want you to write me social media post for the month of April. I'm not going to tell it it's for this specific event, and we'll see if it infers that information. So yeah, here it goes. It says, feel free to adapt to the university's voice and style, which is great. But you can see it's starting to outline the recommendations it gave us above. It's outlining different social media posts for each of those. It's adding fun little emojis, and it's giving you essentially a title to help match it to the plan that it outlined above. So you can see how this could really streamline workplace efficiency by essentially getting you 80-90% of the way there. And then from the information it provides, you can fine tune and tweak it so that it makes sense and is more University of Illinois specific information. So let's do another one. So I'm going to ask it to summarize some conference notes that I took. So I attended an AI conference, and I'm going to give it the notes, and I'm going to ask it to summarize. So here are my notes, and I'm going to say, it's not letting me type. That's fine. Okay, so here's where we go. That character count's getting me, right? So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Notebook. So with Notebook, you can actually ask it and have more character count limits. So you can see, summarize these notes, AI conference notes. I pasted them all in and it output those. So if you have more content than what the normal Copilot chat will allow you to input, you can switch over to the Notebook functionality and it allows you to put in more characters or more content. And you can see that it's limited to a response. So it's saying, okay, I've answered you twice now. So you have 30 responses left for this specific conversation. So as soon as I start a new conversation, it starts over. But just to give you that information, there are some limitations as far as how often it will respond. But you can see all my sloppy notes that I took in a hurry during the meeting. It outlined them in a nice, numbered list. So that way I could easily scan through and see the main concepts and points from that conference. So I'm going to switch back over to Copilot. And I'm going to ask another one. So one of my favorite ways that we can use the generative AI models is to ask it to rewrite an email to be nicer or more professional. We've all had those days where maybe an email came off wrong and we, type angrily back a scathing email in response, but maybe we can take that email, copy it into generative AI model and ask it to rewrite it in a nicer tone. So here's an example. As you're aware, these scripts are due this week. This is a reminder to get it completed. latest end of day Thursday, so we are not late again. So you can see that's kind of bitey and not very nice. So I'm going to ask it to make this more professional and nicer. And you can see how it does so in a very eloquent way. And so this is one of my favorite ways that you can use generative AI models, is to help you fine-tune your writing skills to be more eloquent in ways that maybe you struggled with before. So another example is explain to me like a ninth grader. And so we're going to go ahead and ask it a philosophy topic, since those are usually pretty semi-confusing. And we're going to say, I'm studying philosophy. Can you explain Plato's theory of ideas to me like I'm a ninth grader? So we'll see what it says. And you can see how it literally tries to explain it in a way that is at the level of a ninth grader. So it's not over their head and they can understand it in their terms, which is great. So you can see how it outlines the different things. And so what if I'm like, I still don't quite understand it. So what about explain it to me like a fifth grader? We all watched that show back in the day, Smarter Than a Fifth Grader. We'll see how it does. And so you can see how it'll change the different ways that it's explaining it. And it starts off with, all right, kiddo, let's break it down. Some may be offended by that, some may not, but it's reducing it down into easier terms to understand based on that rating level. So this is really important as you're working with students. Maybe you're dealing with a complex topic and you're trying to explain it to them and it's just not coming across. This may be a way to help adjust the words you're using to get that information to them. And so we'll give another example, and this one's more based on, okay, I'm trying to do this thing and I can't figure it out. So how do I set up a pivot table in Excel? That's a basic question. Again, in what ways then can I use this as a training tool? And so you can see it is giving me step-by-step directions on how to create a pivot table in Excel. And so there's often times where we're working on something, just as I gave the font example for PowerPoint, where there's just one little piece that we can't find. And when you Google it, it's really hard to find that information sometimes because you're going through different forums or help documents, and it's not always the greatest. And so being able just to say, how do I do this basic thing? And it gives you steps on how to do it is very helpful. Right, I'm going to jump back to the slides. Right. So what are some other potential areas that we can use it? So data cleaning, pre-processing, and feedback analysis is a great way to use it. Event planning assistance, which you saw as we were asking at different ideas for the Student Affairs Month. And then project proposals and documentation. It can really assist with, like I said, getting you started with those type of documentation and writing. Training material creations, depending on what you're trying to do, you can use it to help create that training documentation. Career advancement advice, and learning new skills. So those are some different other ways that we can use it. And I'm going to show some different examples of that as well. So we'll jump back over to our model. So how can we use it in this way? So I have some data that I'm going to copy over from an Excel document that I have. We did an employee AI survey. So I have a bunch of data from that. So I'm going to start a new chat. And I'm going to tell it to analyze this data. I'm going to copy in my content. And you can see it sometimes copies the image over to like an image copy of your content. And I'm going to put this information in. And Copilot's going to think and do its thing, and it's going to give us information based on the data. And so it really starts to outline the data that was collected from the survey and put it more into human readable terms, right? And so this is helpful when you're trying to create a report based on surveys or other information. It's also really great at summarizing results. So for example, if I sent out the AI survey and we had a bunch of open-ended questions. We can feed those questions into the generative AI model, and it will output a summary of what the responses were. So this is a really great way to summarize information for different surveys or reports or meeting notes that you're using. So as an event planning example, we'll go ahead and give another one for that. Start a new topic, paste that in. I'm working on hosting student events at University of Illinois Springfield during spring break. What are some events that would appeal to students? So again, I'm trying to brainstorm ideas with the generative AI model. Let's see what it comes up with. It's really thinking hard. So it starts to outline different ideas of activities that we could host for spring break for students on campus. And this is, again, just a really great way to get different ideas on things that we can do, and think of how long this would have taken us to do and create on our own. And we got an initial starting point for different events that we could talk about hosting in seconds. And so this is just a really great tool to help make you more efficient at work, so you don't have to spend as much time thinking of those things that the generative AI model can help us brainstorm way quicker. All right, so I'm going to ask for it to help me write a proposal to explain why we need a business intelligence software on campus. So again, that documentation writing, proposal assistance, there's a lot of good writing assistance tasks that you can use generative AI for. And so you can see it's really outlining all of the details on why it would be important for UIS to have a business intelligence software implemented, the benefits, the key components, and the conclusion. And so, for example, if you were trying to propose to onboard a new software to use for something specific in your office, this may help you create the main key points to provide the leadership in your office to show the need as to why we need these different tools. And so from a professional development perspective, I'm going to ask it to write me some interview questions. Write me interview questions to use for an office assistant internship position at University of Illinois Springfield. We're getting ready to interview an office assistant position, and we need some questions. And so what would be some good questions for us to ask? And so it's going to outline different questions that we could ask the applicant during the interview. And so this is great because, again, this would take us maybe quite some time to develop these on our own. And instead, we can get good, solid 10 questions within seconds. And you can also ask follow-up. Well, I want to focus on X, Y, and Z. Could you give me questions about that? And it can, give you additional information. So I want to learn something. So I want to learn how to write a grant proposal. How do I do that? Let's see what Copilot recommends. And it's going to give us a step-by-step guide on how to approach writing a grant proposal, which is great. And so again, there's a lot of these things that we have to spend tremendous amounts of time researching and figuring out. If we can use generative AI tools to get us most of the way there, it can really reduce the amount of time required for us to spend on these type of projects. And so I'm going to ask it a follow-up question. I want to know, where can I find an available list of grants for AI research specifically? Let's see what it says. And the funny thing is the first link that it provides is actually a link we had in one of our AI steering committee meetings talking about funding that was available. So just from personal experience, I know that that link is correct. But again, you would want to check and make sure that the information that it provides is accurate. But you can see how it's outlining the different grant options that are available from different companies and where you can find them, and even includes their little logo, which is kind of neat. So it has a lot of good information that it provided. All right, I'm going to go back to the slideshow. And share that screen. Here we go. All right. So just to give like a thorough example on one that you can try is generative AI can help outline projects, create to-do lists, and suggest steps for project completion. So in this one, I'm saying we'd like to host an event to promote school pride. What are some events that we could do? And then I say, follow-up prompts. Give us a list of tasks that we would need to do to set up and promote the event. Write a description to use to promote the event on our website. Write a social media post to promote the event, and give me an image to use for this event. So why don't we try this and see what happens? I'm going to share my other screen again. All right, so we're going to ask it that exact prompt and see what it comes up with. So you can see it's starting to outline different types of celebrations, events, things that we can host on campus to really promote that school pride. Okay, so let's pick one of these projects. Let's do Spirit Week. So I'm going to ask it to give me a list of tasks that we would need to be done to promote. I'm going to change that to Spirit Week. So in this example, I'm really wanting to show you how you can keep drilling down with the generative AI model to get more detailed information for what you're working on. And so you can see it's literally mapping out exactly what we need to do to, host a great event, to evaluate the success of it afterwards. I love that part. So it's providing some really great information. And so I'm going to ask it, go ahead and write me an event description to promote this. Thinking hard. And look at that. So now I have the event text to add to the website, right? Now it's a little wordy. So I might say, this is one of my also favorite prompts, if I can type correctly. Rewrite to be more concise. Oftentimes, the generative AI models give you a little more than what you want. So you can always ask it to reword it to make it more concise. So you can see it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. It gave me just a short sentence instead of the full. But this could get me what I need to really write that event to add to the website. All right, so we're going to say, write me a social media post to promote this event, which it kind of just did in the above one. So let's see what variations it provides for that. Ooh, see, that's a little wordy too. Maybe we need to be more specific. Write me a social media post for Facebook. Well, it did pretty much the same thing. So I could say, write it in less words, make it more concise. We'll do the make it more concise again and see if it helps us out a little bit. And this is an example of when you want it to do something and it just doesn't quite do it the way that you want to. So maybe I would need to adjust my words. So write in 140 characters or less. See if it can do that. Sometimes these models are good at counting characters, sometimes not so much. But there you go. There it is. That's what I was looking for, right? So it took me a second. I had to prompt it a couple different ways to get it to do what I wanted it to, but eventually it output what I needed it to do. And so I'm going to ask it to give me an image to use for the event. Don't know how this is going to turn out. I've used a lot of the image generation AI generated models, but Copilot is somewhat new. So we'll see what it comes up with. Well, it says event image, but it doesn't look like it gave me one. Oh, so it gave me some free event photos. That's kind of helpful. So it's still working on the generative AI component in Copilot, but that's good to know that it semi works and semi doesn't in that regard. And I'll show you a different example with ChatGPT later. All right, we're going to go back to the slide for a second. And so from a professional development perspective, how can we use this? So here's my resume. Write me a cover letter for this job. And you can paste your resume and your job description or the links depending on your model. Some models will accept links and go out and scan the link. Some won't. So that kind of depends on the capabilities of your model. Write me some interview questions used for the office assistant internship position, which is the one question I showed you earlier. Here's my resume, write a biography, no more than 2 paragraphs. So I want a biography to write for the directory on the website, but I don't want to write it. So I could just input my resume and it will write a biography for me. What are some interview questions I may get for an executive office administrator job? And I'm an academic advisor. In what ways could I further develop my skills? So again, from a professional development, how can we use this? I want to learn X, Y, and Z. And so those are different prompts that you can use to really get different professional development opportunities from the generative AI models. So we'll go ahead and try some of those out. Back to the chat. And so let's go ahead and try the office assistant one. So I'm preparing for an interview and I really want the model to help me do so. So how can I do that? I can ask it to ask me some interview questions. So this is the opposite end. We asked it to give us interview questions to interview someone, but now we're asking for it to, ask us some interview questions that we may get for this type of position. And so it's really outlining the different, questions we may get, and that will help us mentally prepare as we go into the interview process. So let's go ahead and ask it the academic advisor question. How do I develop my skills further? And each of us have such different roles that this is a great way for you to learn how to, enhance your skills and also further develop your resume and add different things to your resume by doing different professional development. And so it's really mapping out different options and possibilities to continue to develop yourself professionally in that role. And I'm gonna do a new one, and we're gonna do, I want to learn how to, I'm gonna use make my website accessible, since that is such a hot topic in my world right now. I'm gonna see what it says. And it should have lots of information for us. So you can see it's essentially mapping out how exactly I can make sure my website's accessible, different things to consider. And this is also a great, I have an accessibility specific question about content I'm working on. I can ask Chat, the generative AI model, is this accessible or not? If I have any questions. So that's a great tool to kind of have in your toolbox as well. Right. And then we also have some different examples for personal use. So I figured these would be good to include, since our, personal life, even though we try to leave it at home, there are times where there's just things that are bothering us from home that we really can't help but focus on. And so if we use generative AI tools, we can help take some of that mental load off of our plates and instead have the generative AI model give us this information so we don't have to spend so much time thinking of it for our personal lives. And then professionally, we can be more focused at work, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and try some of these different prompts, but you can see I'm having a bad day. I feel mentally overwhelmed by my job. Any suggestions? I'm traveling. I have these ingredients. I want to make lasagna, write me a grocery list. My car suddenly smells like gas. What do I do? It's raining outside. What are activities to play with my kids? And I love camping and cliff jumping into water. I'm in Illinois. What are my options around me? And so these are all fun, different prompt examples I wanted to show you. And so we'll go ahead and go back to the chat and we're going to input some of these and see what we get. And so I'm going to do the first one because we're all have been very focused on health and wellness at work. And we have those RISE professional development sessions that we're getting hosted, and those have been great. So what are ways that we can do it? And I should have started a new chat, so it's not inferring anything from the previous one, but you can see it jumped right in. It apologizes that I'm feeling overwhelmed. It's showing empathy, which is nice. Sometimes we just need to have some empathy. And if it's from the generative AI model, so be it. You know, it's still kind of nice to have that. And then it's telling me how I can kind of take a break, you know, different steps I can take to relieve stress and to not feel so overwhelmed at work. Talks about mindfulness and deep breathing, which was one of the sessions at the last professional development RISE event. So that's kind of awesome. But then look, it's like, have some self-compassion. Don't be so hard on yourself. So I think it has some really good tips as far as how we can use this to, you know, make ourselves come up with ideas on ways that we can feel better if we're having a hard time about something. And so I'm going to do the traveling to Niagara Falls with my 4 kids, ages ranging from 11 to 22. What are some activities you would recommend? And this is hard. Planning trips is hard. There's a lot that goes into planning a trip. So using these generative AI models, we can essentially plan our trip a lot easier, outline possible activities to do that are specifically suited for the kids in the age ranges I mentioned, on top of, you know, making it so I don't have to do all this research on my own. It gets me, you know, 70% of the way there. I could research some additional options. But you can see there's a lot of good information here as to ways that I can set up different activities for the kids. And it even provides a bunch of links for TripAdvisor. Look at that. So that's really neat too. And so you could ask follow-up questions. Well, I'm interested in the botanical gardens, you know, what do I need to prepare for my trip? You know, so there's different follow-up questions you could ask in that regard. So I'm going to do the recipe one now. So I have these ingredients, give me recipe options. So I'm going to say eggplant and sausage because I actually prompted the generative AI model for this one evening, because I was trying to figure out what to do with these ingredients that I had. So I wanted to use what I had and not have to go to the store, obviously. And look, it is literally mapping out. It's giving me a recipe I can use, telling me the additional ingredients, the instructions. It's giving me multiple options. So again, just take don't make me think. That's one of the terms they always use for web design and usability. So with this, it's essentially making it so you don't have to think as much as the things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis. And so another food related is, I want to make lasagna. What is my grocery list? What do I need to buy? And just to have, you know, this assistance where it's mapping out everything you need. Again, I don't have to think about this. It's really making it easier for me. And especially if I'm a new cook, this might be very helpful because maybe I don't know any information about cooking, and the generative AI model can give me all sorts of info that I wouldn't otherwise have, or it would be harder for me to find. So here's another, I used this. This actually happened. I went to the store, came out, my car smelled reeked of gas to the point where I had to roll the windows down. It was making me lightheaded. So I asked it this question. What should I do? I don't know what to do. I don't know enough about cars to know what this means. And so I asked it these questions, and it gave me basic troubleshooting information, how to troubleshoot my issue, what I need to do, what I need to consider. you know, make sure you ventilate so you're not sitting here smelling all this gas. So I thought this was extremely helpful. I use ChatGPT when I asked it, and so it doesn't give you the fun little emojis, but look at how cute that is. It's like, give me a little car with smoke coming out the end. Like, it knows what I'm experiencing, right? Right. So another one, we all have kids and don't often know what to do with them from an activity perspective. So just a basic one. It's raining. What do I do with my kids? And so it can give you some different ideas on how to engage with your kids when it is rainy outside and you can't go outside and play. So, I mean, you can see there's so many different uses for these models. This one, I tested most of these prompts before we did the session today. And this one, I'm going to see if it gives me the same response as last time. But I thought it was, the first time I prompted it, it actually gave me the place that I take my kids, which is Bellsmith Springs in the Garden of the Gods area. And there's a place you can go cliff jumping. And so I had asked the ChatGPT model that, and it had given me specifically that place to go cliff jumping. But you can see this one is giving a bunch of different options on other places that I could take my kids to go cliff jumping. So I thought that was really nice. See Fern Cliff, that's in Southern Illinois, not far from where the other place I mentioned was. And then it gives some different state parks you can visit too. So again, just provides a lot of information. So yeah, this is great for workplace efficiency, but if we are hyper-focused on something that's bothering us in our personal life, it makes it really hard to be efficient at work. And so using it for personal use too can also make you more efficient at work. All right, so we'll go back to the slides. And so now we're going to get into generative AI images. And this image in this picture was created with Midjourney. And you can see the prompt that I used to create it in the bottom right. It's a close-up of a college student sitting at a desk on campus with a MacBook laptop, looking at the camera, smiling, sharp focus, 35 millimeter. And then the -- AR is 16:9, which is the aspect ratio I wanted it to come out in. Most of these generative AI models give you square images, so you can prompt specific ones to be able to give you the aspect ratio you need. Look at this picture. This is amazing. It looks real. It's clear. It has the nice, you know, faded background. This is just an amazing image. So for us to be able to prompt generative AI to give us images like this is just crazy that we have this capability to do. And they're coming out with video. So if you haven't heard or seen Sora, that's the new video option that's coming down the pipeline as well, which should be pretty interesting. So what are some different generative AI image tools that we have? So the image I showed you was from Midjourney. In my experience, this is the best generative AI image model that's available on the market as of now. I've tested it thoroughly against the other models that are listed below, and Midjourney is just extremely better. It was one of the first models to launch. It does a very good job at producing human faces and characteristics, as you saw, where some of the other models really struggle with that. You do have to be careful. Sometimes they add extra hands and arms, and you'll ask for someone holding a phone and it has like an extra arm in the picture. So that does happen. It's not fail-proof, but I'd say Midjourney is the best of these models, in my personal opinion. Dolly is the generative AI image model that comes with ChatGPT Plus and Teams. So if you have one of those accounts, then you can use Dolly as part of it, and you can prompt it right within the ChatGPT user interface. It's not a separate application. You can do it right within there, which is kind of neat. And then Photoshop has a generative fill capability, which uses generative AI. We all have Photoshop. It comes with the Adobe Creative Suite, so we all have access to this wonderful tool, and you can use this to generate different assets and images or remove images. It's a really neat tool, and I'll demo for that later. There's also Adobe Firefly. That's also a free tool that we can use, and it's similar functionality to what they use in Photoshop, but is more like the Midjourney and Dolly models, where you can prompt it and it provides you different images based on the prompt. This week, I found a couple new ones. Microsoft Designer is also a generative AI model that I was able to use, and I'm pretty sure that one's free. And then LimeWire is another one, and that one is subscription-based, but they all have different capabilities. And so to show you an example of how it came out with different images based on the prompt. So my prompt was a futuristic AI-driven university campus. And so Midjourney's on the left. I would love to work on a campus like that, just saying. Adobe Firefly is on the right. So you can see I created an image, but it's more cartoony, a little less lifelike. Microsoft Designer did a pretty cool job as well. That looks like a pretty neat campus. And then LimeWire is on the right. So you can see each of them, you know, similar, but they all have very different ideas of what an AI-driven university campus would look like. So I wanted to show you just as an example of the different models and options. And so now I'm going to show you a video of me using Photoshop to add an image into the colonnade shot here. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. And so in Photoshop, you literally just select a section of the image and then you type the prompt that you want it to do in the little generative AI field that pops up. And so I'm at a student looking forward with its back, I think they're back towards us to the camera, with their back towards the camera. So that's the prompt. I click generate and you can see it's thinking, it takes a second. All right, it added a student. I don't really like that student. What are my other options? So Photoshop gives you multiple options or variations of your prompt. And so it gave me 3 different options. They're okay. Not my favorite though. I'm going to hit generate again. I want some more options. So if you hit generate on that same prompt again, it'll give you additional variations to choose from. And so this is great where if it's just not where you want it to, and then you can also add additional info to your prompt if it's not getting you where you need it to be. See, it gives some different options. These are great. I like the middle one the best. Super easy to do. If you are missing an element in an image or you need something removed, the generative AI capability in Photoshop will get you there pretty quickly. Okay, so as I mentioned, some of the models have certain features and some of them don't. And so some of the advanced features that we have with these generative AI models, I have outlined in this slide. So with ChatGPT Plus or Teams, you get faster response times. You can create your own GPTs. So for example, if I want a GPT that I have prompted speak in the tone of University of Illinois Springfield at a 9th grade readability level, then I can create a GPT that has that custom prompt in it. And then I don't have to type that every time. And so that's great. And then if you have a team account, you can share that GPT with your team. And so you all can use it. And so depending upon your needs or what you're working on, that may be a good tool. So for example, my team was working on populating content for program pages that didn't have content. So we prompted and created a GPT based on talking the University of Illinois tone at a 9th grade readability level, create some language to promote this program based on this catalog content. And then we gave it the catalog link and it helped to write a description for us based on that catalog information with a more marketing, tone to it. You can also upload files with ChatGPT Plus or Teams. That is not something I think that other models offer at this time. Maybe the Gemini Advanced does, but in the Copilot Pro, I'm not sure the exact features with that. I'm still trying to learn what the differences are, but the ChatGPT Plus and Teams does offer file upload options. And then as you saw with the Gemini, you can't, or the Copilot, you can insert text in a notebook. So you can copy quite a bit, but there's still limitations on the amount of characters. DALL-E image generation is integrated in ChatGPT Plus. You also have GPT-4 with vision, so it can read images, which is great for accessibility things that we need to work on. It offers the data protection, early access to new features, and that image to text capability. And so Gemini offers similar data protection, Google Workspace integration, which depending if you're using those tools or not may be helpful. It also has an image to text. And then the create your own GPTs is available in Copilot Pro. I'm waiting to hear back what that cost would be for us to pay for that per unit. But it does offer the Office integration, the DALL-E image generation, and the data protection as well. So I guess the main feature of the Copilot Pro would be for us to get that Office integration component and to create your own GPTs like you can with the Plus account. So I emailed ITS to find out that information. So as soon as I find that out, we'll make sure and include that info in these slides. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you some of these advanced features. And this time I'm going to do so with ChatGPT Plus. Well, I have the actual Teams account that we'll use for this. Expand this out. And so if you see you've got ChatGPT, you can switch it over. And then I have 4. And so you can see these are some GPTs that I created. And so here's that Drupal one specifically. So it's prompted to say anything Drupal. It just knows we're talking about Drupal. We don't have to prompt it. The email innovator. So add a spoonful of sugar to your emails that need a little sweetening, even on your sour days. So this is one that I shared with the team. So you're having a hard time writing an email. You don't have those little eloquent nuances to make it sound professional and nice. This email innovator ChatGPT can help you do that. And I can share this with the different team members because we have a team account. So this is really awesome. All right, so we'll go ahead and get into showing you some of these advanced features. And so one of the ones I wanted to kind of show you is the option to upload a file and it read that file. So this is hugely important for different accessibility reasons. So I'm going to use the image that I have in one of the slides. So AI's interpretation is only good as the question. Oh, and I didn't prompt it. What? Oh, and it's going to go ahead and, oh, it typed it out for me. I see I didn't even have to ask. I just threw the image in there and it knew I wanted to know what it said. So that's kind of neat. So if you have images that have text in them that you need to be accessible and have the text for it, you can use this tool to translate it. Another cool one to do is I have this pie chart. Let me see. Oh, this little bar is in my way. Just drag it over. I'm going to show you what I got, what I'm working with. So here's the pie chart. I'm going to upload this. Explain this pie chart. And so for any of us that, again, are working with different images or diagrams, and we really need this to be an accessible image and we have the text to include with the image, so that way anyone with the screen reader can still read it. This is the tool that we can use to essentially output any data that's in charts or images to text, so we can use it for accessibility reasons. So this is huge. This is a great feature to have, and especially depending on if you're a faculty member or not, this may be something that will be great to use for your class, to be able to essentially take diagrams and translate those to text for all your readers to have access to. And you can see it's mapping it out. It's explaining in detail, a lot more detail than what that image actually provides, which is really great. So if I'm creating a report based on this information, it's getting me most of the way there, right? And depending upon the time of day and how many times you've already prompted the model, it kind of depends on how fast it is. So, and just to explain that as a preference. All right, so we're going to do a new one. And this one, we are going to say, summarize the information on this web page. So one of the plus or Teams features is you can give it a link and it can scan the link, read the information, and help you, do whatever you need to do with that link. And so I'm asking it to summarize the web page, the AI web page we have on the UIS website. So you can see it's outputting all the information. It's really just breaking it down, and then for more detailed information. So if you have a page that has a ton of content or information, this is a great way just to kind of get a summary of what's going on. So again, that summarization capability is really great to use. All right, I'm going to do a file upload option. Let's see. Where did my file go? All right, so I had someone share this AI academic integrity document. It's 16 pages long, but I really want the general key points. So we're going to attach the file and ask it to summarize the document to key points for us. And so we all don't have enough time to read the information that we need to. And so this is just a great way for us to get a summary of what the documentation is talking about. And there's just so much AI info and reports and articles that this is a great way to just get the general points of what they're trying to provide in the paper without having to read 16 pages of content. So this is a great tool that the advanced plan offers, or the Plus or Teams plan offers for ChatGPT. And you can see it's really doing a thorough job of explaining each bullet point, each key point that it's making in that paper. And then I could always ask it follow-up questions. Like if I had a specific questions about one of the topics it was talking about, I could ask it more information, and it will supply the information based on that paper that I uploaded and also on just its general training data that it has. All right, so I'm going to jump back over to the slides. And go. So here's the tools that we talked about today. So here's all the links. We have Microsoft Copilot, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google Gemini. There's a couple I added to the bottom, which I thought were fun. Scholar AI was a plugin, but now it's its own standalone application that you can use to help find research papers. So this is a really great tool if you're doing research. It's not always 100%, but it does help you track down resources for research papers. So that is a fun tool. And then Otter.ai has transcription capabilities to transcribe meetings, which I know Zoom is working on implementing a feature like that as well. So maybe something we have for our Zoom meetings in the future. And then the AI image generation tools, Midjourney, DALL-E, Microsoft Designer, Adobe Firefly, the Photoshop, and the LimeWire are the different generative AI tools that we have available. And so some other resources, the AI UIS website, it's a great website to see all things that are happening with AI on campus and just to stay up to date with new things as they come out. It's changing rapidly fast. And so this is the best way to keep up with all things AI at UIS. So please go to the webpage, sign up for the newsletter. It's at the bottom of the site. And we're going to be sending out newsletters of all the great things that our faculty and staff are doing related to AI on campus. The AI Liberal Arts Lab has worked over the past year to curate a list of AI links, articles, and resources. There's a lot of faculty links and resources, but there's also a lot of like ChatGPT cheats sheets and different information to really just help you make you more efficient. So I wanted to make sure and include that link as well. And then those links about generative AI and how we're using it. So the acceptable use and generative AI information and guidance from the system and from UIS. And so just remember that AI will not replace you. People using AI will, though. So it's important that you fine tune your AI skills depending upon what your job, it looks like different for each of us, but make sure to know that the AI, it will not replace us. But if someone else uses AI to do their job, they will be more efficient than we are if we do not. So we just need to make sure and keep that in mind and really fine tune our skills and continue to use these tools to make us more efficient and better at our jobs. And I wanted to show the prompt I used. So this is the image from the opening slide, and this was generated by Midjourney as well. And this was the prompt I used. So it's a young astronaut floating in space, looking into the distance at other planets with excitement. And then I have that aspect ratio of 16:9 again. And you can see how beautiful this image really is. I think it really captured what I was looking for with that prompt. But again, just to kind of show you the capability of what some of these generative AI models can do is quite amazing. So that's the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for joining me today. Are there any questions before we go today?
Thank you so much, Jessica. There are quite a few questions in the chat. I don't know if you want to take a quick moment to look at them.
Yeah, let me do so. Pull that up. It's hard to get to it. Okay. Let's see. So Copilot, there is a link. Yep, looks like Michelle's already on it, sharing the link. And so again, just make sure you log in and you see that little protected green sign in the top right. That's how you know you've authenticated through your account and you have password protection or the data protection on there. So yes, all three of the tools that the free tools that I mentioned, so that would be Gemini, ChatGPT 3.5, and Microsoft Copilot are all available for students to use. Now, the Microsoft Copilot is the only free tool to us that offers the data protection though. So again, make sure we're logging in and authenticating, and that is available to students as well. So very important that we let the students know that information. Has the university disabled Adobe's automatic content scraping and the use to train their AI? That would be an ITS question. So that's something I can reach out to ITS and ask them as far as what we're doing. But I know there's a lot of people upset from artists' perspective. And I understand why. I have a friend that actually lost her job out in California because of all of this stuff that's happening with AI. And they're essentially using artwork that was generated by artists through Adobe and using that to train data on. So ethically, that can be considered not right. One of the things that I try to avoid when I'm doing image generation is I never refer to a specific artist. I feel like that's stealing their artwork. And so instead I use style terms to be descriptive, to get it to style the image the way that I want instead of using a specific artist. And then ethically, I feel better about that. So again, that goes back to the ethics on what we need to consider. Monica asked, I don't see conversational style options in my Copilot view. How do I view the box to select the creative, balance, precise options? I think there is let me pull up my Copilot again so I can take a look.
I think that one may have been answered by.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Perfect. So as far as the copyright issues with AI generated photos, as far as I'm aware, like depending upon the tool, depends upon their requirements. If you use Adobe Firefly, it actually adds the information that it's an AI generated artwork to it, where Midjourney does not. What they recommend is to include your prompt. So if you used AI to generate the image, and you want to share that information, include your prompt that you use to generate it. But there is some blurred lines, so to speak, with the AI generated content. We're all still figuring out what that should look like from an ethics and like copyright perspective. But that information, like if I generate an image with Midjourney, I'm free to use it however I want, and it is not like copyrighted in any capacity. FOIA implications, university work, and AI tools. That is a great question, and definitely something I will bring up with the media strategy team, because they get all the FOIA requests, so they will probably be able to point us in the right direction. Since the Microsoft Copilot is data protected, I'm not sure how that works with FOIA requests. So I will, I'll look into that and find out more. And will UIS make GPT-4 available for everyone? Technically, Microsoft Copilot uses ChatGPT-4. So we have made it available for everyone. It doesn't have exactly the same features that ChatGPT-4 does, but most of the way it does. It offers data protection. It uses DALL-E for image generation, and it has the 4 capabilities as far as the model and the number of characters you can use. So Microsoft Copilot is essentially our free version for everyone to use across campus students and employees. And yes, I can send these slides and recording. Melissa said we can add it to the website with the other recordings, but we'll make sure and send these slides out and the video to everyone.
Yeah, we'll post everything on the HR website under our trainings tab.
Perfect. Any other questions? Well, I hope this was informative, and I know there is so much to learn and to do with that we can do with generative AI, but the best thing I could recommend is just dive in, play around, see what works best for you. The more you use it, the more things you'll figure out you can use it for. Every day in our office, we are using this tool consistently. We are coders, so we use it for debugging and different coding things, but then we also use it for content generation as well. Most of the images that were in the slides were generated by generative AI. And so you can see how great of a tool this is for us to use. So I hope this was informative. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And if there's anything you can think of that would be good to add to either the AI website or to share with campus, please let me know, and we'd be happy to get that information out to everyone. Thank you all. Have a great day.